how long can Israel stay in control of that crossing? And where is the line, and where a limited operation in Rafah turns into something that you've said you oppose? And we've seen nearly 500,000 people now displaced from Rafah over the last week or so.
We cannot have Hamas controlling Gaza. We can't have chaos and anarchy in Gaza.
Right. So today, this idiot called Anthony Blinken, who happens to be American Secretary of State, but a very, very devout Zionist. We know that. His loyalty is definitely not with the people of America or humanity in general. His loyalty is with Israel. And today's press conference, he was in Kiev. He was visiting Ukraine. He was holding a joint press conference with his Ukrainian counterpart. And one of the questions that was asked by a BBC reporter about Gaza and situation in Gaza and the another war crimes being committed by Israel in Rafah. And what he replied, what he said was a proof clear enough that what is happening not just in Rafah but across Gaza and West Bank has had American blessing. Whatever America has told you up until now, whatever America has told you has been an utter lie, only for public consumption, maybe to prevent or maybe to ensure that it doesn't have any culpability when the matter goes to ICJ, International Court of Justice, or ICC. Just to make sure that it doesn't have any culpability in war crimes or the allegations of genocide. You know what happened? Up until now, every time when the question was asked about, America's role in Rafah, what would these jokers like Matt Miller or this Vedant Patel or, this White House spokesperson would tell you? The standard answer would be that we're still waiting for a concrete plan from Israel. Israel hasn't given us any concrete plan. Or whatever Israel is going to do doesn't have America's approval.
We do not believe Israel has presented a credible humanitarian plan that would account for both the potential harm to civilian life of an operation in such a crowded area, or for properly evacuating and caring for the over 1 million people who are there.
We have yet to see a credible plan for a military operation in Rafah that addresses the areas of concern.
So this was all a lie, as was absolutely clear today in what Anthony Blinken had to say. And mind you, when Israel started its incursion, Israel started its invasion of Rafah, the same jokers would tell you that, it's only a limited operation.
From what we understand, what we know, what we're seeing in Rafah right now, according to what Israel has shared with us, it is limited, targeted operations. That's what we've been told, and we have been very clear. We have been very clear about how we feel about our concerns, privately and publicly, about a potential major operation in Rafah.
We have not yet seen indication of a major military operation. So that's something that we're watching closely.
What is your definition exactly of a major operation in Rafah? I mean, you have tanks there, you have bombings going on every day. They took control of the Rafah crossing. What is your definition of a major operation?
So I'm not going to get into too much detail about that from here.
So what Israelis have taken control on the Palestinian side of Rafah border. So what Israel have forcefully displaced more than 500,000 population. If that is not a war crime, if that is not a Nakba, then I don't know what it is. It's a second Nakba taking place in 2024 in front of the entire global fraternity. The UN is there, the United Nations bodies are there, ICJ is there, ICC is there, and everybody is quiet. More than 500,000 people have been forcefully displaced and they have nowhere to go. The only place they can go is outside Gaza. And you know what will happen if they are forced to go outside Gaza? They will be never allowed to come back. Same way that they have never been allowed to go back to their original land. since being displaced in 1948 by Israeli terrorists. So when Israelis started their operation in Rafah, the same jokers would tell you, oh, it's only a limited operation. So what, scores of people are being killed, again with impunity by Israeli terrorists. So what? That's a limited operation. Imagine if that many numbers of victims were Israelis. Imagine if they were being denied food, if they were being forced to starve to death. The whole world would be crying in anger. And they would be accusing Palestinians of being terrorists. But the same world is comfortably sleeping right now. No wonder this guy, what he said, he was asked a pointed question. How long do you think Israel will be in control of the Palestinian side of Rafah? And what happens to the forced displacement of those people? What Anthony Blinken says? He says that America doesn't want Hamas to control Gaza. Just imagine. The question was Israel's current occupation of the Palestinian side of Rafah and how they have been killing people, Palestinians there, and forcing more than 500,000 population to displace themselves. And the reply from Anthony Blinken is that they don't want Hamas to control Gaza. And the clever wording, what he says, he never blames in his entire 3.5 minutes long answer. He never blames once Israelis. What he says is that resulting developments of the conflict has seen, tension in Rafah.
And if I could ask you about Gaza, Israel has taken control of the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing in the last week. That means that the last territorial connection to the outside world for ordinary Palestinians in Gaza is now occupied by Israeli forces, which has the potential to create a very serious crisis with Egypt. And there have been quite a few warnings about this. How long can Israel stay in control of that crossing? And where is the line, and where a limited operation in Rafah turns into something that you've said you oppose? And we've seen nearly 500,000 people now displaced from Rafah over the last week or so.
With regard to Gaza, one of the deep concerns that we have is the impact of this limited operation that we've seen to date in Rafah on the ability to provide humanitarian assistance, because the two main points of access in the south, Rafah itself and Kerem Shalom, have been affected by the resulting conflict in the south. And we've seen at the very time when Israel was taking important and much needed steps to improve the provision of humanitarian assistance to Palestinians in Gaza, we've seen a negative impact on the fact that we have this very active conflict in the Rafah area. We also see Hamas firing at the crossings themselves, making it also more difficult. So in and of itself, we have this urgent problem of restoring the full operational capacity of Rafah and of Kerem Shalom to make sure that assistance gets in. Now, we're also seeing real progress in the north, where more is coming through, but what we don't want to see is a situation where we've basically reversed what's happened in recent months, where assistance was working its way through in the south, but very little was getting to the north, to have that reversed and have improvements in the north that are much needed and need to continue, but then to see steps backward in the south. More broadly, we've been very clear that when it comes to the future of Gaza, we do not support and will not support an Israeli reoccupation. We also, of course, do not support Hamas governance in Gaza. We know and have seen where that's led all too many times for the people of Gaza and for Israel. And we also can't have anarchy and a vacuum that's likely to be filled by chaos. That only underscores the imperative of having a clear, concrete plan for the day after the conflict in Gaza, in terms of governance, in terms of security, in terms of rebuilding Gaza for its people. And here, it would be important for Israel to focus on that as well. We have been doing a lot of work on this, as I mentioned the other day. with partners in the Arab world and beyond over several months. But it's imperative that Israel also do this work and focus on what the future can and must be, because, again, it cannot and says it does not want responsibility for Gaza. We cannot have Hamas controlling Gaza. We can't have chaos and anarchy in Gaza. So there needs to be a clear, concrete plan, and we look to Israel to come forward with its ideas.
He can never blame Israel. I mean, this guy is a classic example of moral depravity. So whenever you are watching these people and their press conferences, pay special attention to nuances, the wording. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.